Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Dissenting opinion. I know the fake it till you make it thing is a big thing, but also know your limitations.
Okay.
If you can't do something, don't promise something that you can't do.
Yeah.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobbi Maxwell.
All right, here we go. We're going to just start. We're just going to start. And we'll see how it goes. If it's shit, we won't even run it.
All right, cool.
So here we are, the Making Waves VO podcast. And we are making some real waves, yo. Right in the middle of Old Hickory Lake, just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Bobbi's here. Bobbi, please tell the people you're here so I don't sound like a clown.
We just had a really nice dinner with our VO friends. Heather, what's your name?
We are here.
Jessica.
So we are literally on Old Hickory Lake, just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And we're here with Heather Bell and Jessica Holtan, fellow voice actors from the Nashville area. Welcome to the Making Waves VO podcast, ladies.
615 representing.
Yeah, 615 in the house.
Lake Edition.
Yeah. The Making Waves VO podcast is presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
And we just had the idea of doing a little VO meetup group. You know, we got together for a little VO meetup and had some dinner, and we decided to bring the Pontoon out and do a Pontoon podcast. But we wanted to talk about different ways folks got into voiceover. Bobbi and I come from radio. You all know that very well. But let's talk with Heather Bell. Heather has made some guest appearances on the podcast. She's got a liner running on the podcast. Heather Bell, from Nashville, also from Maine, also from New York.
London.
Everywhere.
She told me today she lived in London.
Yes.
London.
Here.
Heather, how did you get into voiceover?
So my background is corporate event planning, and so I did that for 20 years. And early on in my career, as a corporate event planner, I was working for a women's fashion company, and we switched phone systems, and the IT director asked me to record the outgoing message. So that was my first foray into voiceover. And so many people complimented me on my
Your sound, your delivery?
The tone and everything. And then somebody at some point said, you should get into voiceover.
So
and
they
I
said
was
you
like,
had a good voice, you need to get into voiceover.
yes.
Right?
And exactly, which I'm sure a lot of people hear and
Yeah.
all the time. But I had no idea what voiceover was. I was like, what's that?
Yeah.
But at the time I lived in New York City, and you can find kind of everything there. So I found a woman who ran classes, and I took a class, and it was so much fun. I had the best time doing it. Ended up taking private lessons with her for a whole year, and just, it was a really nice balance. Corporate event planning is very detail oriented. It's very type A. It's very, stressful. And this was like an outlet for me. Voiceover was like a nice balance where I could be creative and have fun and feel relaxed while I was doing it. So I sort of took it on as a hobby. And I did it for many years up until I moved to Nashville. And then when I left New York and came to Nashville almost 4 years ago, it was during the pandemic. And that's, I still thought I was going to be an event planner, but nobody was doing events at that time.
Yeah.
So I was working on voiceover. And then I suddenly had an epiphany. And I was like, why do I need to go back to event planning if I can do this and earn money doing it? So that's how I ended
So you
up
just
here.
went cold turkey from not doing corporate to...
Yeah, kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I feel like people did a lot of experimental, crazy things during the pandemic, right? It was
Yeah.
like kind of a time to like start over and reinvent yourself, I guess.
Do you do corporate narration?
I do, yes. A lot of it, actually. I feel like that's a very good match for me with my background, and I enjoy it a lot.
That's what I was going to ask you.
yeah.
Like, what do you spend the most of your time on? What genre?
I'd say corporate.
Okay.
Corporate, like explainers, industrial kind of stuff, like explainer videos and corporate e-learning, And yeah, I mean, and then commercials.
Yeah,
I was
you
telling
do a fair
Bobby
amount of
earlier
commercial stuff,
that,
right?
like,
Yeah.
of course, everybody wants to get into commercials. So when I can, phone prompts, do a lot of those too. So, and always looking for new things, new opportunities, and auditioning for a ton of stuff. So.
Okay.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Surf's Up. It's the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobbi Maxwell. This is voice actor and studio owner Christy Bowen, and they appreciate you listening.
Bobbi, this is a hot time of the year, and it's always a great time to buy gear at Full Compass. And why is this so why is it really good right now?
Well, we're excited about this. We have a special code for Making Waves listeners that you can get 10% off of almost anything at fullcompass.com. I mean, who doesn't love a sale? I know I do.
I know, and we were so excited. We got the email this morning from Full Compass, and they said, hey guys, we have a new code, and that code is Making Waves. All one word, Making Waves. Waves without the E, though, of course. It's a great time because there's a lot of VO coming up, right?
Oh, yeah. We did an episode about this on Making Waves, about what's happening this fall and what's happening up until the end of the year. So everybody's kind of doing updates and bettering their equipment. So if you want to find some great products, and they pretty much have it all, and you can get 10% off with Making Waves, the code, when you check out, do it. Do it.
Think about it. You could buy, a $500 microphone and you save $50. I mean, and then with that $50, you could buy some new cables. On and on and on. But I will tell you, it is a limited time only on the new code, Making Waves. And there are a few exclusions, Bobbi.
Yeah, it is for a limited time on purchases of qualifying non-sale items, not valid on parts, cannot be combined with any other offer. Additional exclusions apply. $1,000 maximum discount and limit one redemption per customer. So get it all at once. Offer not valid on previous purchases, non-transferable, single-use promo code. Call 800-356-5844 for details. Void where prohibited.
That code, one more time, is Making Waves. MAKINGWAVS. Making Waves. No E.
10% off from Full Compass and fullcompass.com.
We know VO. Making Waves returns. Now, let's go to our other special guest here on the Pontoon, Jessica Holtan from Higgy VO. And
Hygge.
Huh?
Hygge.
What's
That's how
Hygge?
you pronounce it.
That's how you pronounce
How you
it?
pronounce it.
So Hyggge.
Yep, it's a Danish word.
Oh, it's Hygge.
Hygge.
Well, there
You got to get that little E now in there.
Hygge.
There you go.
Close enough. So Jessica
Yes.
from Hygge VO, Jessica Holtan. So you've been doing VO for a while, and you came about a little more honestly than Heather did. Heather's scamming into the system. But you come from an acting background, right?
I do. I'm kind of the traditional acting background story. Also grew up in a family in radio. So my dad was in radio pretty much from the time I was born. So I did a lot of, my first commercial was when I was 8 years old for the Fireside Restaurant in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I still remember every word. Wow. Yeah, so that was like my first opportunity behind the mic. And yeah, I was a musical theater person, had kids very, very young, so kind of took some time away from the musical theater world, but still stayed in kind of the commercial and on-camera world. And so had lots of little times where I would, kind of dip my toe into the VO world, but then, got to that point where you had to have a full-time job. We had to with two small kids. So I went into customer service and was often the front desk person. Okay. So I always had to do the phone messages. But I, much like Heather, I would get a lot of comments on people loved calling in because they said, you just make us feel so welcome. You make us feel so happy, which is how the Hygge VO even came about. Okay. Because when, you ask people, like, how does my voice make you feel? And, you have to ask that awkward question as you're doing your branding stuff. Mm-hmm. That was often the comment that I got back. And so that made me feel good. And so the fact that I can kind of lend that comfort and warmth to other brands made me happy. So that's basically was my end to making it a full-time thing. Also, during the pandemic, actually just before the pandemic, I had started going into VO full-time. I left my real estate job and just said...
Oh, you did real estate too?
Well, I was an admin.
Oh, okay.
I was an admin in real estate. So, yeah, I wasn't actually selling. And I was trying to do it remotely with my team in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working out. So I said, you know what? We're going to take this VO thing full-time. So I called my friend Billy Jo Cones, and I said, how did you get started? And she gave me all the first steps. So thank you, Billy Jo. And yeah, I've been full-time since 2019. Had a baby in 2020, so that was kind of a rocky start, but yeah, now we're rolling.
You were mentioning at dinner tonight that a lot of actors on stage. Kevin, jeez, back that baby up. A lot of actors on stage and on camera are getting into voiceover. Why do you think that's so many are?
I think we're in a world that everybody realizes that you can live your passion. It can be a full-time job, but you have to diversify. Just like you do in every other financial aspect, you have to be diversified. So you can't just be an on-stage actor. You can't just be a singer anymore. There's not enough work. There's so many people who want to do it and so many talented people. So I think a lot of stage actors are finding more and more that they see voiceover as animation, as video games, as maybe audiobooks as well. Yeah. They don't realize that there's 15 other genres that they haven't even thought about yet. So it's kind of fun when I get to talk to them about, well, there's also this, and this. And they're like, oh, okay, great. But yeah, I do think because they have that acting background and they have that natural ability, feeling comfortable behind the mic and feeling comfortable performing, that it feels like a natural step to them.
Yeah, because it seems like even 5-10 years ago, before I got into this, that I thought of voiceover as like Don LaFontaine, he was a promo guy. I didn't think of all these different areas. One of my coaches in the past couple of years had mentioned that, well, actually she's a casting person too, that she rarely sees the same person booking over and over these days because there's so many people in the industry now. And it's just, there's so much talent out there
you can get a fresh voice every time.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking earlier about the pandemic and people couldn't act, right? Nobody was working. And that's when I feel like a lot of actors really were like okay, let me look more into this and I can do it from home or whatever. They would send the package to their home so that they could record and so on and so forth. And and then now that we've emerged from that, a lot of people they realized how awesome it is. And they don't want to go back to, or they, branch out into both areas. So.
And Heather, you've now been doing this a while, and we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast that are just getting into it, or they're working a full-time job and they want to get into it so desperately. They've been training and all these things. And can you think of a couple of things that were like watershed moments in a way that you're like, I think I can do this, or things that really clicked with you that you could share that would give some wisdom to those that want to do the same thing?
I mean, gotta be tenacious. That's the bottom line. But I think for me it was easier to do that when I had a full-time job because I wasn't, it didn't matter. It was fun for me, and then when I booked my first gig, it was a radio gig and it paid next to nothing, but I was just so elated that somebody wanted to hire me. And it was for what was the Oregon Jamboree? Oh. That's what I did it for. And I was mixed, some guy the guy that I worked with mixed my voice with his voice. And I just remember how excited I was to hear the final radio edit. And that sort of motivated me to keep I know I didn't get paid a whole lot for it, but I was like, this is a lot of fun. And, as a side income, it was great to be getting paid for something that I enjoyed doing and that brought me so much joy. So yeah, it's just, and there's so many different avenues out there that there's no right answer. You got to go with your gut a lot of times too, because I feel like in this industry, even, I started doing this in 2009. So for as long as I've been doing it, I've heard conflicting advice from every corner of the industry. And so ultimately, I just realized that it's you have to decide what's right for you and sort of like pursue that avenue. So.
And the good news is that the Oregon Jamboree has received worldwide acclaim since Heather did the spot so many years ago. And that just tells you, what a good voice actor can do for your brand.
Lisa Lou Perry here, voice talent and former work wife of Kevin Kilpatrick. Bobby stole him from me. But damn it, you've still got the best VO podcast in all the land right here. The Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobbi. Enjoy.
She brought up a really fun moment because do you remember your first, other than radio, your first paid voiceover job? Not on the air.
Not, can it be like I was hired while I was still working at the station, but it was for somebody else?
Once you were on your own.
It would have been automotive. It would have totally, I don't remember the exact one, but I remember getting I do remember getting my first kind of official client and how elated I was. And I'm like, it was for car stuff, but I was like, I can do this. I can make a living. And that's all I cared about was making a living. And I didn't, like Jessica was saying a minute ago, I didn't know about this whole other world that I was like e-learning, car stuff, some on-hold stuff, and then that's how I'm making, in production, obviously. And that's how I'm making my living from here on out. I didn't realize like other commercials, promos, trailers, dubbing, all these different things.
Yeah. I remember my first job. I was at a movie theater and I had my phone off and it was on a pay-to-play. And I went out to my car after the movie is over and there was a message. I remember the product. It was Puritan Pride vitamins.
Oh, I literally used to get vitamins from Puritan Pride. I know you think I'm a smart ass that I'm making that shit up, but I used to get krill, the red krill, for my heart, Bobby, for my heart.
Yeah.
But I did, from Puritan's Pride,
And it paid really well.
Because they're a big brand.
Yeah, and this guy said, this is on my message, he goes, and we need to do a directed session. I'm going, what the hell is a directed session?
Now, I do remember my first directed session. It was for Meijer Superstores. You're from the Upper Midwest. Do you know Meijer?
I do know
Meijer. And so I had ISDN. I'm dating myself, but it was ISDN. So at the time, I was in Fort Lauderdale, and the female talent, Beth Cameron, great gal. Do y'all know Beth Cameron? Mm-hmm. Radio gal, sweet as pie, and just a great talent. But she was in Boston. I was in Fort Lauderdale, and then the producers were in Lansing, Michigan, and they patched us both in, and we're doing all these. And I had the gig for like 3 years, and it was my first directed stuff, and I'm like, it was very nerve-wracking. And P.S., that's also the story where I learned about controlling your space. But we're doing a session, and Joel, the director-producer guy, we're doing our thing, and get chuck roast on sale for $7.99 a pound. Hi, I'm Kevin. You're going to love this chuck roast. And so I'm doing the spots, we're doing the thing, and all of a sudden down below my house where I lived, I hear, I'm like, holy crap, the lawn crew's here. The lawn crew is here. Alert. Hi. And then Joel, the director's like, do I hear lawnmowers going? I'm like, yeah. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, yeah, Joel, that's right outside my door. And he goes, no worries. He goes, just pause a second and let me just hear it. And so he recorded the tone.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. And he did. And he was a sweet guy. But, you learn. Jessica, what have you learned about VO along the way that you didn't know at the beginning, but you're so glad you picked it up and you made the error on the way?
Everything. Everything. I have made so many mistakes. And my very first session, somebody hired me to do ADR over a music video.
Oh.
Wow. They're like, you know how to do ADR? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looked it up, and I was like, okay. But the whole thing was that the person's face never faced the camera. It was the back of her head. So I had no idea what I was doing. But we got through it, and we figured it out. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is to be okay with making mistakes. I think it's the only way that you're truly going to learn the whole thing is to put yourself out there, to do your best. And if you're going to make your mistake, make it loud. and then they'll know how to fix it.
Yeah, there's a saying, if you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. And that's what we do.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Heather, I'm going to go to you with this next question.
Okay.
Like,
Don't make it hard, please.
No. You're doing great in VO. You're making a living. You're paying your bills. What drives you? What motivates you? What are the next steps that you want to do to keep moving forward in this career?
Right now I'm focused on a lot of marketing because I realize that pay-to-plays are not going to,
Can't sustain you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really focused on reaching out to potential new clients, and Jess knows this. I've actually been getting some people that have come back to me and been like, oh, somebody the other day said, great timing. Can you audition for this? And then I ended up booking it, and so I was like, oh, this actually does work sometimes, because there are a lot of times where you're sending out these emails and you feel like such a salesperson, and it also feels like it's going out into the abyss and nobody is ever even reading them, so that's encouraging. But I think focusing on that, constantly learning, doing things like the JMC Euro retreat, done that a couple times, and just some of the conferences too, learning. I feel like the more I learn, the more people I meet, it's only just sort of growing my knowledge of the industry, and there's so many people that are just so enjoyable to like you guys, just to connect with and learn from, and and I think that that's helpful too. So, did that answer the question?
It did. Fantastically.
Yeah, I think the making contacts is just huge. And all the things you just mentioned, whether it be emails or going to conferences or doing workshops and virtual things. You're making a contact, and you never know when that person's going to remember you. And we talked about that a couple weeks ago with the HBO thing. It's like, I would have never thought that I would get a job with HBO through a workshop. Yeah. But every little contact you make could lead to something.
But also, connecting with people personality-wise. Not just, I like to know the people, not just make the connection because they're a good connection to have, I feel like when you can connect with somebody on whatever it may be, find some kind of common link, bond, something you can chat about other than just voiceover work, or, I think that makes it a lot easier too, because then you want to work with people like that. So, and hopefully they want to work with you.
Are you doing marketing?
I am not real good at my marketing. Well, I do a lot of marketing over social media. That's kind of my jam. I don't do a lot of cold calling. I don't do emails. I don't know why. I'm terrible at them both. But I do a lot of social media marketing, especially on LinkedIn and Instagram as well. But LinkedIn seems to be where my stronghold is with connecting with people. Interestingly enough, I have avoided marketing on my personal Facebook page. I only do it once or twice a year, but the once or twice a year that I've actually put it out there, people from my past who are now in corporate jobs in different places or in the real estate world have reached out and said, hey, we need somebody for blah, blah, blah. So I think the biggest thing that I learned with my marketing this year is to not be afraid to remember to reach out to your friends and family. When I sold Mary Kay, I'm a Mary Kay lady. Did you have a pink car? I did not. I was never that good. Actually, I'm still a Mary Kay lady, but I'm terrible at it because I won't mark up the prices. I never made a profit. But no, the first people that they tell you to reach out to are your friends and family. And I was too afraid to do that with VO. I was like, stepping, I don't want to step on toes or make anyone feel uncomfortable. But, we have to remember that we are providing a service. And that's the biggest thing to keep in mind is you are giving something to somebody. You're getting paid for it. You're not giving it away. But you are providing a service for them. So don't be afraid to market to the people that are in your past. I've had 15 jobs since the time I was 18 years old. Those are 15 companies that I can reach out to. Why not?
How does it work with the LinkedIn thing for you? Because I always have the fear that I'm going to jump right in and say, hire me. And I know you're not supposed to do that. So you start up a conversation and kind of check back in with them?
Interestingly, I think the biggest thing that I do, I will do posts a couple times a week. But more than that, and it's not even direct messages even, I will comment on their posts. or on what they're doing, and I will celebrate them. I will be excited for them. If it's their work anniversary, I will post happy work anniversary, or every now and then I'll send a direct message, but more often than not, I have people direct messaging me because I've commented on their things. Oh, cool. And they're like, hey, how's it going? Tell me more about what you do. And that's, I haven't gotten a lot of work off of that, but I feel like I know it's coming because now we've created this relationship. Yeah. I had one woman connect with me and she said, I just really like your vibe. And, when she connected with me, I was like, hey, thanks for reaching out and connecting. How are things going? Do you have plans for the 4th? And she got back to me and she told me her plans for the 4th. She's like, what are you up to? And I told her that I had a 4-year-old. She's like, oh, I have a 3-year-old. And it just started this organic conversation. And she's like, you know what? I adore your vibe. I'm putting you on my short list.
Very cool.
So, it's just those little things, and you never know where those connections are going to lead.
Don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
This is John Malone coming to you straight from the Malone Zone. And you've got the best VO podcast in the whole internet right here. The Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobbi. Boy, are you lucky.
Full Compass is your one-stop destination for cutting-edge audio, video, and lighting solutions. With nearly 50 years of industry expertise, we offer a vast selection of high-quality equipment from microphones, recording interfaces, and software to audio accessories, monitors, headphones, and other pieces to help you find your ideal sound. Our trained product experts are here to help every step of the way with unmatched customer service. You'll also get free same-day shipping, flexible financing options, and a low-price guarantee. Visit us online at fullcompass.com or call 800-356-5844 today.
Now back to the podcast.
So that said, Jessica, yes. Moving forward for those that are just getting into this and you've stumbled, you've tripped, you've made the errors, what pitfalls can you tell those to avoid that are just getting into this? I'm going to start. I'll start. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick is a big thing. If you make a mistake, own up to it, admit it, and offer to redo it. Yeah. That is one of the things. I was always so terrified that my audio was horrible or, somebody was like going to hate what I did because I never heard back from them. And so then you paranoia yourself into almost suffocating the client with, are you sure everything's okay? Or, that was my biggest pitfall. Okay. Trust in your ability, trust in your sound. And if you don't, find an expert in our community who can listen to it for you. Joe Lesh actually came out and he checked out my little studio and he listened to my sound. He's like, I think you're great. And, just the fact that I had somebody who I knew I could trust that came out and said, nope, this sounds good. Trust in it. Like, have some confidence. Dissenting opinion. I know the fake it till you make it thing is a big thing. But also know your limitations. Okay. If you can't do something, don't promise something that you can't do. Yeah. I just, maybe that's a personal thing for me, but, know your limitations, get your training. And if you don't know something but you think you can do it, go ahead and say, yes, I can help you with that. But if you can't, have somebody who can. Yeah. So that you say, hey, I tried to do this. It's just not in my wheelhouse, but I have this person who can do it for you. I'd love to recommend them. That happens in the music world all the time. You think you can do a gig, you can't do it. You have, your David calls it the depth chart of people that you can send that work to. So don't be afraid to refer it if you don't know it.
Love that. Anything else, Bobbi?
On what we would recommend to people?
Oh, just, wrapping up the podcast. And, I think we've covered a lot of good ground here. And I think a lot of people will get benefit out of this. But, yeah, just, if you had anything else that you wanted to ask about for the podcast tonight?
Tonight? No,
the sun is pretty much gone now. So
and we're getting bit by mosquitoes. I don't know about y'all. But, adding on to what Jessica was saying, I think people who are just coming in industry, especially from radio, because I don't know about you, but I get at least one a month saying, how are you doing it? How have you been successful? And you just have to put in the work. And not expect it to come to you.
Yeah.
And you also have to know that you are not just a voice talent. You're a business person. You are an engineer. You are a marketer. You are all of that. It's truly, it's not as easy as people think it is.
Yeah, 100%. I had a radio friend that reached out to me a couple of years ago. And of course, it was right after the pandemic. And she'd been working at a Miami radio station for literally 30-something years, and they let her go. And she said, I'm going to try my hand at voiceover. Now, I know this gal, and she totally could crush this world because she's a natural talent. It's a loud boat. But when I chatted with her, I could tell her mindset was not right.
Yeah.
She thought because she's voiced thousands of radio commercials at the radio station that's all she's got to do. But I was trying to tell her, I'm like, Darlene, it's a different game. Trust me, I know. I came from the world just like you are trying. It's just totally different. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I can do it. Okay, I love you, but I'm telling you, it's different. It's different. So.
Well, Jessica said that about at dinner tonight about actors coming in. They put their style and voiceover just like radio people do, where it's not conversational. It's the stage thing, right? So it's just different, and you've just got to
do your research. I mean, honestly.
And get coaching.
Well, there are so many people that I'm noticing right now that just want everything to come to them. Like, who can tell me everything? Just tell me everything. I'm like, what? Like, if I had somebody tell me everything right in the beginning, like, that would have been amazing. It just doesn't work that way, though. And, you gotta pay your dues. And going back to what I said earlier, there are so many different avenues that you can take. So nobody can tell you the best avenue, and how to, like, just get jobs. You gotta, like, figure out what there is out there and what works for you.
Well, and I think the other thing is that there isn't a one-size-fits-all. Everybody's path, everybody's journey is going to be different. And you have to find the marketing that works for you. You have to find the voiceover that works for you. You have to find the coaches that work for you. You can't just do what somebody else did and expect to have success.
I think that's a good one to wrap it up on, Bobby.
You ready? Cannonball?
Cannonball!
Go first.
Almost forgot. The Making Waves VO podcast is presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us, ladies.
Yes, thank you for having us on the lake.
So happy to be here.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobbi Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.